Hello, hello everyone. Wait, why can't I still hear myself? It should have stopped. Eh? Ah, wait. Hang on. There we go. That should be... That should be better there now. I think that should be working fine. Let me just make sure of something. Hello, hello. Okay. All good. Yeah. I forgot to change over my settings from my other microphone. I think that's quite loud. Hang on, let me... Okay, no, I think that's probably fine. There we go, okay. So, I hope you're all doing well. I hope things have been well for you guys, have been good. Welcome in Copyright, lovely to have you. My day's been pretty fine, I suppose. It's been good. It's been a relatively easy day, I should say. I was doing leg day today in the gym, so I was kind of a bit wobbly walking home earlier today. Almost didn't make it. I had to sit down for a little bit. Although that tends to come more from pushing oneself, like kind of beyond their limit a little bit, to the point that you're almost kind of feeling like you need to throw up. And I've done that quite a few times in my life when I'm, particularly when I join a new sport or something. I had a thing where, like, if I kind of pushed beyond a certain limit, I would get sick, and then I'd feel fine. Like, it would literally be like, it happened to me a lot when I used to do like rugby or something. I'd run and run and run and run, and then I'd need to step into like the forest that was beside or pitch, and I would get sick, and then I would come back out and I would be fine again. It was a weird little thing to do. And sometimes it would concern the coaches. I'd be like, no, look, it's literally just, I don't know what's wrong with my body, but now I'm gonna be able to be faster and better. At least that's what I felt like. Welcome in, Clever. Welcome in. Are we reading today? Yes, we are. Copyright. We're going to be continuing or reading of Philip II of Macedonia, greater than Alexander. This time focusing on the Macedonian war machine and Philip's kind of evolution or innovations around there. Welcome in, Haru. Ooh. Ow, my face. Drown check. Well, if you insist, I suppose I must. Let me push out and grab my water bottle. I was drinking a lot of water earlier today while I was at the gym, but I do need more. Actually, I do think if you drink a lot of water, it can help offset muscle soreness. I have a big, like, liter water bottle right there, so that's pretty handy. But how are you, Haru, and how are you, Clever? I hope you guys are doing well. Clever, I saw you were talking about struggling to speak French earlier in the Discord, which was kind of funny. I remember doing a little bit of French at times, although I've forgotten most of it. But I was mentioning that French is a very funny language when it comes to numbers, because like when it gets to 20, it's 20, and then 80 it's not 80, it's it's 420. It's 80, which is 4 and 20. And then another person pointed out that 89 or 99 is even sillier with a 99, which is literally 420 10-9 zilly. You're dying. Oh no, Haru, why are you dying? It's so cold. It's so cold. Oh no, Haru. Haru, come close to the fire and warm up, okay? Get a nice blanket wrapped around you and get cozy. I often find when I'm like really cold in bed, I'll try and create like, I guess like a wrap. um, I'll kick the blanket so that it kind of folds underneath my feet. And then I'll do everything to make sure there's no openings. Everything's folded on top of itself, and I'm like trapped underneath, and then I'm nice and warm. Of course, you need a thick blanket for that to work. The blanket will get caught in the fire I burn. Oh, in the fire. No, don't. Excuse me. Don't go that close to the fire, Haru. Or else, you know what? Maybe just have it kind of back behind you. Like, just have it over your shoulders. Wait, why would it get caught in the fire? Are you gonna, like, how close are you sitting to the fire? Haru's just like, she just jumps into the fire. You're supposed to get closer to Ruadh, not the fire. Wait a minute. Roasted Haru. Mmm. Toasty. Toasted. We could put some marshmallows and cook them off of Haru. What? I mean, I suppose so. I suppose that could also work clever. Warmth. Body heat is a very good way to warm up. That is a fact. And as part of my Tuatha Dé heritage, I'm sort of divinely empowered in the sense that I am just very warm. So I suppose if you guys are going to like freeze to death, then I will put up with you hugging me. Steal his clothes. Wait, what? Hang on, no, wait, no. Clever didn't mean steal my clothes. I may be warm, but I still want clothes. Don't you try and steal my clothes, Haru. The emote is cute. Don't make a session. Yeah, no ERPing in my server, in my chat. Clever. Bad. Don't record it either. But no, it's not been too cold. It was cold a few days ago when I was in a suit, but you know, I have to say, when you're in a suit and then you also have an overcoat on top of it, like, you're not gonna feel cold, especially when it's a good suit like the one I was wearing. It's oh, I love wearing suits, I'm not gonna lie. There's a friend of mine, son Albionus. I could bring him in and he could start talking about suits, and he could talk about suits for literally like 5 hours. I've done it with him before. Like, suits are hot, like literally you finna be sweating. Finna. Does that mean like, oh, I think I've seen that a few times. I guess that means like you really be sweating. I don't know, something like that. It's not a slang term I'm too familiar with, but yeah, they're but then when it's cold out, it's lovely because it's like, it's so nice and warm, and of course you just look good. You look fantastic. I can't really go too in depth in explanation as to what I was wearing, because there's you know, potentials that people could find out who I am. You know, that's a thing that we tubers have to be a little bit careful with. I'm sure it will happen to me at some point if my OPSEC isn't on point. But if that happens, then I'll just have to shrug my shoulders and watch out for some crazed fans like stalking me. But either I won't be that big when it happens, or I'll be so big, hopefully, that I can hire security. I think that's the aim. You don't want to be so popular that that you could have crazy fans, but then you're not able to like prevent it, other than relying on like the Gardaí. I'm in your walls. I knew I heard something, Haru. I could hear the scratching at the walls earlier. Don't you be eating my insulation. I could hear that. The house is already cold enough. Don't you be eating my insulation. I hear you scurrying. Oi, oi. Bad Haru. I'm gonna call a Haru exterminator. They don't really exterminate you, they just like get you out. I don't know how they do it, but they do. Stop eating my insulation. It's expensive. I have to call a person to fix it, to tear up open the walls. That's a cute hee hee. I excuse me. I'm looking forward to this weekend actually because I have a half day tomorrow, which is very nice, and then I also have Monday off. So I'm going to be able to hopefully get a lot done and stream a good bit. Even just an extra day off and then the shortened week on top of that is going to be so nice. But I do have a little bit to do over the weekend, but I think I should be okay, and I'm hoping that that extra time will allow me to get ahead of certain things. But other than that, I want to do a little bit of streaming. I might do the karaoke this weekend. I might do it. I might do it this weekend, or I might do it the weekend after. But I just want to laze around during the weekend. What's that tune again? Today I don't feel like doing anything, but do. I just wanna lay in my bed. Don't feel like picking up the phone, so leave a message after the tone. 'Cause today I don't feel like doing anything, nothing at all. Do. That song is me 24/7. Yeah, I used to really like that song. I also used to I really liked the happy song, you know. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel. I can't remember the lyrics. But yeah, so I think I might have mentioned it a few times that the next karaoke I want to do focused on Jim Crochet. And he has some really amazing songs. His Bad Leroy Brown is one of them, but there's a couple of others that I definitely want to do. Welcome in, Teal. Welcome in. Thank you very much for the hydrate. Haru is certainly happy, I'm sure. I was just saying that I might do the karaoke stream plan this weekend. I'll have to get onto one of my friends because they have some cool backgrounds that I could use. It's like crowds or like a stage, and I can use those. I can go to those places and I can be on stage, and you guys can be in the crowd like with your glow sticks. I need to get a glow stick emote. What color would it be? Would it be red for my hair? Would like a dark red glow stick be cool? Or maybe like blue for my eyes. I think ooh, yeah, blue might work. I think that would be good. Rockin', yeah, glow sticks are so cool. I love those emotes. But yeah, it'll definitely be centered around Jim Crochet and I'm not too sure who else, but I'm sure I'll have loads of Jim Crochet songs to do. Or Jim Croce, I've also heard his name pronounced as, but I think Crochet just sounds better. Although it kind of sounds like you're saying touche. Crochet, touche. I'll figure something out. I might do some like off songs, maybe some Tom Waits or something, or maybe even some Irish songs. Just could be fun. But my throat is definitely feeling a lot better. I remember I kind of had a bit of a cough for the past while. Some of you might know, I wasn't feeling the best, and it's still a little bit there, but it seems to be pretty much all good. With that said, I think I would like to get into a cough and a cold combo as hell. It really is, Haru. It sucks. Although my cold wasn't too bad. It was mainly just, I think, just a slight infection in the throat, and but I seem to be mostly over it. Although I can feel it a little bit. I imagine by the end of tonight, when I'm reading a lot and talking, it will probably be, my throat will probably be a little bit hoarse. But that's okay. That's okay. I'll have a half day tomorrow from work, so I can look forward to that. We're finishing like 3 hours early or something, which is very nice, I have to say. Ugh. But with that said, I would like to begin the reading for this stream. You'll need a lot of water. I will, Haru. I will, and don't worry. I have a wonderful viewer who will drown check me at every opportunity she gets. But we're gonna begin our reading for today. So, whether you want to learn about Macedonia, have me on as background noise, or just maybe you're going to sleep or something, I don't mind. Use me however which way you want. Use my reading, not me. Don't take that out of context. I will beat you. I will beat you up. We start on to chapter 3. Don't. We start on to chapter 3. The Macedonian War Machine. Wow, it's Kwai. And thank you, Kwai. Thank you, Kwai, for the subscribe for the 3 months. She's so based. Oni-san. Oni-san, it's Haru's Oni-san. Mansawi. Oh, is that like an anniversary? Monsawi? Is that what that means? I don't know. I feel like I'm dumb. That Tom and Jerry, the Tom Sasa Bu Mlem emote is disgusting. It's disgusting. It doesn't. I don't enjoy it. It truly is cursed. I do like it, but like at the same time, it's cursed. But welcome in, Kwai. I was just saying, and I will begin the reading because I've said it like 2 times now. But I was saying that I might be doing a karaoke stream this weekend. I have a long weekend, a half day tomorrow and Monday off, so things are looking on the up for me getting stuff. Maybe I can get stuff done. Oni-san, Kwai is very, very talented indeed. Haru, actually, I need to get back onto you about emotes as well. 2 or 3, and I need to prep for work. Yeah, because I know you were busy over Christmas, and then I got busy with work. But we'll work stuff out. We'll get some Haru emotes in this club as well. No, it's cool. It's cool. We'll figure out what might be some cool stuff. I might get like a Ruadh cozy. Yeah, Ruadh cozy would be good. Nice and nice. Yeah, nice and cozy. You need to prep for work. Nice, Kwai. I hope work goes nice and easy for you. It's Friday over there, isn't it? It's the end of the weekend. You got this, Kwai. One more day, you can get through it. Don't worry, you got it. Now, beginning chapter 3, the Macedonian War Machine. The Macedonian army was born in crisis, and Philip II invented its structure, weapons, and tactics in response to crisis. In the decades before Philip became king, Macedonia had suffered 2 foreign invasions, 2 hostage-takings, the assassination of its king, and a succession crisis bordering on civil war. In 359 BC, Illyrians invaded Macedonia again. King Perdiccas III took the field against them with an army that could not have numbered more than 6,000 infantry and perhaps only 200 cavalry. The result was disastrous. The Illyrians crushed the Macedonians, killing some 4,000 troops and Perdiccas as well. When Philip assumed power this year, for all practical purposes, the Macedonian army had ceased to exist. The Macedonian army had never been much of a fighting force, at least not since it had joined and fought with the Persians at Plataea in 479 BC, before switching sides and supporting the victorious Greek coalition that defeated the Persians. Unlike the Greek states, which had developed excellent hoplite infantry, Macedonia had no tradition of infantry combat. Macedonians' infantry troops were little more than untrained peasants hastily assembled for the occasion, and armed mostly with farm implements and work tools. The most important combat arm of Macedonian armies was the cavalry, comprising the nobility, who provided their own mounts and equipment. Early Macedonian cavalrymen fought as individual combatants and not in integrated combat units. Alexander II, Philip's older brother, seems to have made some tentative efforts to create infantry units that were armed and trained similarly to the hoplites of the Greek states. Like Philip, he may have called these units heteroi, to give them a measure of the prestige attendant to the elite cavalry companions, that meaning foot companions. Alexander's reforms did not amount to much, and it is unlikely that the Macedonian hoplites, which served mostly as the king's guard on the battlefield, numbered more than a few hundred troops. Most were killed along with their king in the battle against the Illyrians, leaving Macedonia with its traditional untrained peasants for its infantry. The Macedonian phalanx. In 359 BC, Macedonia needed an army, and needed one quickly. The Illyrians were preparing another invasion, this time aimed at occupying the entire country. The Paeonians had begun to assemble their armies along the Axius River. I'm just going to pull up the map again. I'm pretty sure it should be this one. And this can kind of help you guys, if you guys can see the text on it, if you're interested in such things. The Axius River is this one here. So we're talking about the Paeonians. They're lining up along this river, ready to invade. The Paeonians had begun to assemble their armies along the Axius River for an attack on the lowland plains. Athens had demanded the return of Amphipolis and had assembled an invasion fleet to support the claim of Argaeus II, Philip's half-brother to the Macedonian throne. Philip assembled what experienced troops he had left, and, quote, he made the Macedonians confident by convening them in assembly after assembly, and exhorting them by his eloquence to be brave. At the same time, he began to reform the military formations that gave them greater strength and equipped them with weapons suitable for these formations. He devised both the close array of the phalanx and their equipment, in imitation of the closed shield formation of the heroes of Troy, and he was the first to put together the Macedonian phalanx. The infantry phalanx that Philip invented revolutionized infantry combat in Greece, and would essentially come to dominate the next couple of 100 years until the Romans came along with their legions. And even then, after Rome fell, the phalanx would make a pretty strong comeback in pike, or in the forms of pikes, when you had when cavalry and knights began to roam the lands of medieval Europe. Why didn't Philip copy the traditional hoplite infantry of the armies of the Greek states? Philip was surely familiar with hoplite infantry, having encountered it in Thebes when he was a hostage there, and perhaps even when an elite hoplite unit served in Perdiccas' army. But the circumstances in which Philip found himself made the creation of a hoplite infantry impractical in Macedonia. When Philip came to power, Macedonia was still a poor country and lacked an urbanized middle class that could afford the costly armor and equipment the hoplites required. The country's treasury was depleted as a consequence of the previous decade's events. and Philip was unable to purchase the armour and weapons for his troops. Even if Philip's foundries could manufacture the required equipment, the time required to do so would have left the country without an armed force for many months. More importantly, hoplites need complex and extensive training to fight effectively in the phalanx, and Philip did not have the time to train new troops in this complex formation before the Illyrians, Paeonians, and the Athenians attacked. The lack of an infantry tradition in Macedonia and the nobility's unwillingness to serve as ground troops virtually prohibited creating an adequate hoplite force soon enough to handle the threats facing Macedonia. Philip needed to find a way to take an assembly of peasants with little or no military experience and equip or train it quickly in a tactical formation that could hold its own against the hoplite infantry of the Greek states. His answer, he devised, was the Macedonian phalanx, otherwise known as big long stick beats small stick. That's literally it. The phalanx had, I think it was like 6 or 7 foot spears, and then the Macedonian phalanx, the sarissas, were like 14 feet long. If you can poke your enemy 14 feet away and they can't do anything, you kind of have a slight advantage. There is other things, though, and we will get into it. In a sense, Philip found himself in the same situation as Napoleon when the latter reformed the French army. Both needed a large number of troops and had to quickly fashion them out of raw conscripts. Both solved their dilemma by creating new formations that were simple to assemble and control and required only limited training on the recruit's part to be used effectively on the battlefield. Napoleon's marching column and Philip's Macedonian phalanx were different solutions to the same problem. The original Macedonian phalanx was a simple box, 10 men in front and 10 men deep, with each file commanded by a decadarch, or leader of 10, who led, or it's right, decadarch, yeah, that's right, decadarch, or leader of 10, who led their files from the front. These file commanders were the bravest and most experienced troops Philip had available, and received double pay. The simple square was easy to control, especially in the attack, when all it had to do was move forward. To control the formation, an experienced man in each corner of the square maintained its direction, and a few veterans were scattered throughout to maintain morale and cohesion by example. The square also lent itself to maneuver. It could turn in any direction while still presenting a strong front to the enemy. The crowding within the box increased the confidence and cohesion of the contained, marginally trained troops in the same way that the phalanx did for the trained hoplite. So, for those of you who may not be too familiar, the idea of a phalanx is essentially, men standing side by side, the spear in their right hand, the shield on the left. The overlapping shields would protect their body as well as the man on their right side, which would make, of course, being on the left-hand side at the very end quite dangerous. Oh wait, would it be? I think it's the right-hand side that you'd be kind of exposed. And then there'd be quite a couple of ranks deep. The thing with the Macedonian phalanx is their long sarissas. Their spears required 2 hands to use, so they couldn't carry proper shields, such as the hoplite one. The kind of Spartan shield, if that's what you think of. Instead, what they would have is smaller shields strapped to their wrist. But again, this will be explained further, I'm quite sure. Because the Macedonian phalangite's weapon was a phalangite weapons made individual combat difficult. The Macedonian soldier relied primarily on the cohesion of the formation for protection. One-on-one against a hoplite, the Macedonian phalangite was almost helpless, because once you're past the spear point, and especially such a long one, it becomes very difficult to get it back in time. Now, with a shorter spear, this is actually quite, I won't say easy, but even if you get past the danger point, they can still whack you with the thing they can pull it back very quickly. And as someone who has fought against spears before, I can tell you that the speed that they can thrust at you and then also be pulled back and maneuvered to continue threatening you at all times is really fast. Really fast. I took a few donks to the head with a padded spear before. Despite these circumstances, raw conscripts could be trained quickly to function effectively on the battlefield if their tasks were kept simple. Philip fashioned his phalanx to be 10 men deep, thicker than the typical hoplite phalanx of 8 men deep. This change probably reflects Philip's interpretation of Epaminondas's tactics that he had learned in Thebes. The key to an effective infantry on the ancient battlefield was not maneuver, but the weight and power it could deliver straight ahead, or with which it could resist the enemy's attack. Philip's original phalanx was designed for weight and power more than maneuver. Later, it would also become the most maneuverable infantry formation to take the field under the legions of Imperial Rome. The phalanx did not need the hoplites' expensive equipment and armor. Instead, the compactness of the phalanx made them unnecessary and impractical. The cost of equipping the phalangite was much less than for the hoplite, an important factor in Philip's calculations since, as Diodorus tells us, Philip had to bear the entire cost of equipping the infantry. The Macedonian phalangite officially wore no body armor at all. Later, leather breastplates were in use. Let me take a drink of water. During Alexander's campaign, however, the phalangite seems to have acquired a linen cuirass of laminar armor for upper body protection. To provide some body protection, the phalangite carried a small 24-inch circular shield made of wood and sometimes covered with bronze. The shield was almost flat, less concave than the hoplon, and weighed only 12 pounds. That's about 6 kg. The shield hung over the soldier's chest from a strap around his neck, and provided some protection to his body, just as a tower shield was used in the Iliad, serving more as a cuirass than a buckler. When the phalanx formed in compact order, the men shifted their shields over their left shoulders as the files pressed together. The Macedonian soldier wore the same iron helmet as the Greek hoplite and carried the same xiphos, a straight double-edged infantry sword. Greek armies widely used leg greaves during the 7th century BC. With surviving equipment lists suggest that Philip's day they were in common use among Macedonian infantry and cavalry, but had fallen into disuse in most Greek armies. The complete kit of the Macedonian phalangite weighed some 40 pounds, almost 10 pounds less than the panoply and weapons of the hoplite infantrymen. In the early days of Philip's reign, it is likely that only the front ranks were equipped with complete sets of armor. I'd die holding that 6 kg shield. Well, it wouldn't be... it would be a little bit heavy, to be fair. But it's the fact that it's strapped to... It's hung around the neck and strapped to the body. So it's somewhat maneuverable. But of course, yeah, these are very strong men. Many of the ancient soldiers and even modern soldiers typically are carrying somewhere in the region of 40 to 50 pounds of equipment. But you have to remember that at the same time, these are also humans. They were intelligent. They weren't just going to dead carry, that 40 pounds, which I think is roughly about 20 kg of weight on themselves. They're going to attempt to carry it in the most efficient way possible. So that would mean, things like, the fact that the weight is on your legs might help. That is strapped tight and secure. You might have any armor you're wearing would be secured not just at the shoulders, and it wouldn't just be hanging from your shoulders, but it would be secured at the waist as well, allowing your kind of hips to take quite a bit of the weight. It's why men in full suits of armor are still capable of being very fast and very flexible. Of course, not as maneuverable as if they weren't wearing the armor, But these were serious considerations. These were life and death considerations. They're not going to just weigh themselves down to the point that they can barely stand. There is the idea of the knight in late medieval times being lifted upon their horse. I don't know if that did happen. I'm sure maybe for some ceremonial sets of armor that makes sense. Yeah, you have to remember these are humans as well. They're not supermen, but well, they would certainly be considered supermen today. I imagine very strong, capable individuals. Hello, D. Welcome in. Welcome in. We're just doing a little bit of reading. I hope you can enjoy. Let me take another sip of water. I work lurk for today. No worries, D. No worries. I hope your work goes well. I often throw on your streams as well while I'm working, and I just lurk and listen and do stuff. The design of Philip's infantry formation and its minimal armor and protective equipment made sense only if Philip intended to equip his troops with weapons and tactics that were radically different from those traditionally employed by hoplite armies. We see Philip's brilliance clearly in his introduction of a completely new weapon to Greek warfare, the sarissa. The sarissa was a long spear fashioned on cornelian cherry, a wood that grew abundantly in the Macedonian forests, and was thus easy and cheap to obtain. Characterized by its strength, hardness, and elasticity, cornel wood was a common material for making spears and javelins. Theophrastus, a contemporary of Philip's, tells us that the sarissa of Philip's day was 12 cubits, or some 18 feet long. Okay, I was wrong. I thought it was 14 to 15 feet, maybe 16. No, they were 18 feet. That's ridiculous. I can imagine. No, that's insane. The sarissa's shaft weighed around 9.39 pounds, the iron spear point and socket about 2.7 pounds, and the butt spike some 2.4 pounds. The spear point was 20 and 1/4 inches long, with about half its length taken up by the socket and the other half by the point itself. So the actual stabby part is about 10 inches. The complete weapon weighed around 14.5 pounds and was wielded with both hands. The shaft of the spear came in two sections and was joined in the middle with a 7-inch iron coupling sleeve, or metal joint, fashioned from an iron tube into which both halves of the shaft were force-fit to assemble the weapon. This design allowed the infantryman to break the weapon down into two parts, wrap a strap around it, and carry it over his shoulder or across his back on the march. See, so they're already kind of coming up with ways of making an obviously ridiculously long weapon much more manageable. I want to see if there's any interesting notes here. So there's a note here. The 10-men file was later reduced to 8 men, although when this change occurred is not known. Perhaps it was when the phalanx acquired more battle experience. Later, Alexander increased the number of men in a file to 16. And this is something that starts to occur to a ridiculous degree. I believe in the successor kingdoms after Alexander's death, they start adding even more men and more depth and more length to individual squares of the phalanx. Asilpiodotus is the only source for the diameter and shape of the phalangite shield. He says about 8 pans in width and not too hollow. Herodotus tells us that 4 pans equals a foot. Okay. The weight of the phalangite's weapon and armor is as follows: 24-inch shield, 12 pounds. Greaves, 2 pounds. Okay, we had that breakdown. An interesting question is, where did Philip get the inspiration for the sarissa? Just as numerous practices and rituals from the Homeric age survived in Macedonia after dying out elsewhere in Greece, it is possible that the sarissa derived from the Homeric times as well. In the Iliad, Hector's spear is described as being 11 cubits, or about 16 feet long, and wielded with 2 hands. A miniature fresco from Agriatiri, dating from 1450 BC, depicts Mycenaean warriors using long spears of the sarissa's length in battle. Later tomb paintings show men hunting wild boars with long spears. It is likely that the Homeric battle spear survived in Macedonia in the form of the boar hunting spear. As mentioned in Chapter 1 in Philip's day, a young warrior armed with only a long spear tested his courage by hunting the wild boar, a dangerous animal given to charging its tormentor. The long spear was an ideal weapon for keeping the animal at bay, when wielded with two hands, retaining sufficient penetrating power to stab and kill the boar. In the same manner, Philip's phalanx was designed to mostly defend off the enemy long enough so his cavalry could attack its flank or rear. Later the phalanx developed an offensive role, but in the early days it was mostly a defensive formation. It is possible that Philip conceived of the idea of using the long spear to repel the enemy from the Macedonian boar hunt. Even in its earliest form, the Macedonian phalanx was a powerful physical and psychological battlefield weapon. Wielded with both hands, the sarissa had sufficient power to penetrate the hoplites' armor and shield. In describing the Battle of Pydna against the Romans in 168 BC, Plutarch tells us that the Macedonians, quote, wielding their pikes with both hands, drove them through their opponents, armor and all, for the door-shaped shields and breastplates could not withstand the force of the pike. The mere sight of the phalanx could be unnerving to the enemy. Aemilius Paulus, Roman commander at Pydna, says, quote, at the sight of the bristling rampart of outstretched pikes, I was smitten at once with astonishment and terror. Never before had I seen such a fearful spectacle. By the time it was fought at Pydna, the Macedonian phalanx had been in the battlefield for almost 2 centuries. One can only imagine its impact on the morale of the Greek hoplites, who faced it for the first time against Philip. In Philip's day, the phalanx advanced to contact in a formation called phinosis, gnosis, or compact order. Yeah, I was about to say gnosis is doesn't gnosis what does gnosis in Greek means again? It's philosophically it has a particular meaning. I'm quite sure it's mind, isn't it? Or is it? It might just be order. If I type in Greek. Oh wait, no, sorry. I'm thinking of the word new. Apologies. I'm thinking of the wrong word. I was also thinking of gnosis as in Gnostic knowledge, or not knowledge. I think it's oh no, yes, gnosis. Gnosis is knowledge, but it's spelled Gnosis, which is the same as the spelling here. So maybe there is some sort of connection there with order and knowledge. Knowledge of the order, something like this. Yeah, gnosis, exactly. I think that's where Gnosticism comes as well. Something like that. Good knowledge. I'm not a Gnelf. I'm not a Gnoblin. I'm a gnome, and you've been gnomed. Gnosis. Good day. So dumb. Anyway. Phinosis, or compact order, in which the interval between files was 2 cubits, or about 1.5 feet. In this phalanx formation, the last 5 ranks rested their pikes at an upward angle on the shoulders of the men in front of them, and formed a barrier over their head of the first 5 fighting ranks to protect against missiles. When preparing to assume the defense or penetrate a line of hoplite infantry, the phalanx assumed a synapsismos, or locked shields formation, which cut the interval between files in half. This configuration was accomplished in 2 ways. Either the files shuffled to the right, closing the distance between each man and shortening the length of the front, or the 5 rear men in each 10-man file moved forward to fill the 1 meter space between the files. This arrangement produced a thicker formation with a front of original length. Either way, the phalanx could inchworm itself into adjusting the length of its entire front. The Greek historian Polybius tells us that blades of the Sarisse in the first 5 ranks extended beyond the first rank of pikemen, with the 5th rank protruding at least 2 cubits beyond the front rank. So, if you have 10 men, 10 ranks deep, and the first 5 go past the front line, well, that's 50 points of danger that you have to deal with before you can even begin to attack them. Well, I mean, you could probably start to attack them once you're past maybe the 3rd line, because your weapon can begin to reach. But again, you have to remember that it's being wielded by 2 hands. So the amount of power that they're able to put in is much greater, and they will likely force you back. Which is why it eventually becomes a very good offensive weapon, not just a holding point. When the Sarisse were employed as long stabbing bayonets, the hoplite on the receiving end had to deal with 5 spear points coming at him at once. As long as the Macedonian infantry held their fear in check, the phalanx was impenetrable by hoplite infantry. In the attack, the phalanx could easily drive through a Greek infantry line. In defense, its wall of pike points stopped cavalry in its tracks. The term Macedonian phalanx properly refers to the entire infantry army. So, for example, the phalanx of Cheronea numbered 24,000 men, but the phalanx comprised individual regiments, to use modern military parlance, or taxis, each having 1,536 pikemen. Each taxis was composed of 3 battalions, or pentak osiarkoi, of 512 men. Each regiment and battalion had its own commander. The smallest combat unit was an individual file of 10 men commanded by a decadarch. Infantry battalions and regiments were raised on a territorial basis from within Macedonia, and their titles reflected the region or canton from which they were drawn. When Phillip took the field against the Illyrians in 358 BC, he deployed 10,000 men, or 6 regiments of pike infantry. Phillip had raised that force almost from nothing within a single year after the Illyrians had destroyed the Macedonian army in 359 BC. This achievement certainly suggests the rapidity with which raw recruits could be trained in Philip's new organizational and tactical system of infantry combat. It is often mistakenly believed that a major weakness of the Macedonian phalanx was its inability to maneuver and its lack of flexibility. It is certainly true that Alexander's increased the depth of the phalanx to 16 men, and that the successor armies expanded its size and depth to where the phalanx could hardly maneuver at all. Thus, the phalanx immobility dates after Philip's reign. As Adcock cogently observes, Philip's phalanx, quote, had legs from the beginning and was capable of much greater mobility than the hoplite phalanx was. That's always why it kind of annoys me when people go, oh, the phalanx is so immovable. It's not immovable, it's unmaneuverable. It just stands there and only fights from the front. No. A great example, and I always will bring it up, and it's kind of a strong point, is if the phalanx is so difficult to maneuver and is like terrible on uneven ground, how in the hell did Alexander win battles like the battle, I think it was Granicus, the Battle of Granicus against the Persians, where they literally fight up through a river, or at least a stream. They fight up a riverbank, which must have been muddy and disgusting. Of course, Alexander also has archers and, well, did he have archers? I think he had at the very least he had javelin men and skirmishers, and then he also has his silver shields. But you know, there's a very big misconception. Within the long Macedonian phalanx infantry line, any battalion or regiment could be ordered to take several formations. It could, for example, form itself into a solid triangular wedge to penetrate the enemy's line. Drawn up in tight compact order, the battalion could also form into a hollow wedge, This formation attacked the entire enemy with double the number of spear points of the solid formation, not only head-on, but laterally as well, so that the individual hoplite could not rescue the comrade to his side. At Gaugamela, Alexander formed his phalanx into a hollow, outward-facing rectangle, with orders that if it broke under attack, it was to reform itself into two similar rectangles. And we actually have an image here that I can show you guys of two formations. Let me just pull it up. I need to remember where I put my images. Here it is. It's way bigger than I expected. There we go. So we have the simple, basic block phalanx where the first 5 ranks have their points. This is showing 4 here. This is 8 men deep. Okay, I see. And then they wouldn't be this straight, I think. I think these points, oh wait, hang on, I need to get my pointer. Move down, there we go. I think these points would be a little bit more kind of hovering over this point, kind of up above. And then you have this kind of wedge shape, where suddenly there's a lot more spear points at the front, and it's going to carve its way through. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to be facing that personally. Macedonian commanders relied heavily on the mobility and flexibility of the Macedonian phalanx. Polyaenus recalls an incident when Phillip was under attack by the Thracians. Quote, "He ordered the rear rank, when the trumpeters sounded the retreat, to lower its spears and remain in place, and the rest to retreat, in order to stop the enemy's pursuers, and to provide a head start for his own men. This order required the front ranks to pass through the rear rank, no easy task when under attack from the front. At the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC, Alexander ordered his phalanx to open its files and allow Darius's scythe chariots to pass through harmlessly, before the phalanx closed ranks and went into the attack." Under the hoplite phalanx, which tended to come apart or lose its directional thrust when maneuvering under uneven terrain, the Macedonian phalanx easily accommodated itself to this and more serious obstacles. At the Battle of Granicus in 334 BC, Macedonian phalanx, pikemen, forded a shallow river. I was right, it was Granicus. The Granicus River is where it was fought. Forded a shallow river in formation, forcing their way up a steep riverbank to engage the enemy. At Issus the next year, the phalanx again crossed the river and attacked through the gap that Alexander had created with his cavalry. Perhaps nowhere was the flexibility and maneuverability of the Macedonian phalanx more clearly demonstrated than during Alexander's Balkan campaign of 335 BC, undertaken against the tribes of the Danube. And we're looking up the Danube. Where is it? Oh yeah, the Danube's all up here. So he comes up here. I'm pretty sure he's about to... oh no, I don't think he's going to tell this story. But I'm pretty sure up here during this campaign, him and his army are going up a hill, and the tribes appear at the top, and they push down a cart, a massive cart, or a bunch of carts anyway. And Alexander supposedly orders his men to lie on the ground and raise their shield, and it passes over them harmlessly, and then they stand up and they charge. It's kind of a cool story. I'm very quickly telling it. I'm sure there's a lot more to say about that. Alexander assembled his entire infantry phalanx of 12,000 troops on an open plain and conducted a series of maneuvers and drills to frighten the enemy, watching from the hills. I remember this story as well. He's essentially trapped at this point, actually. He's surrounded on all sides. He was kind of caught in the trap, and he uses this intimidation tactic to attempt to force their enemies to retreat. According to the Roman historian Arrian, Alexander drew up his phalanx with a depth of 120 men. He ordered their men to keep silent and act smartly at his word of command. The first signal was to raise their pikes upright, then at his word to bring them down for the charge, and then to swing their pike heads in close order, now to the right and now to the left. Concurrently, he was moving the phalanx to one flank and then the other. After going thus through many formations and changing them in quick time, he formed as it were a wedge of the phalanx, an open hollow formation, on the left. He began to lead it against the enemy. Philip's new infantry phalanx provided Macedonian commanders with far greater combat power, flexibility, maneuverability, and tactical opportunity than were available to hoplite unit commanders. Philip's innovations had changed infantry combat completely, rendering the traditional hoplite phalanx obsolete. Philip's phalanxes were lighter, more mobile, and more tactically flexible than Alexander's, as were the even heavier, later formations of the successors. Philip's tactical brilliance is revealed in the different ways in which he deployed his new phalanx. Against the Illyrians, Philip used it offensively to drive through the enemy infantry square and open a gap through which his cavalry could attack. He used it in the same manner later against the Thracians. At the Battle of Crocus Field against the Phocians in 352 BC, he employed the phalanx as a blocking force to fix the enemy infantry in place, and as a platform to maneuver for the cavalry. At Chaeronea, Philip first used it as an attacking force against the end of the enemy line, only to stop and retreat, drawing the enemy infantry after him. Then, precisely when his cavalry attacked the other end of the infantry line, Philip stopped his retreat and went over to the attack. He accomplished what Napoleon regarded as the most difficult maneuver for any army, to stop its retreat and regain the offensive. Philip was a brilliant tactician and relied heavily on the capabilities of the new combat instrument that he had created and trained. Not all of Philip's infantry, however, were pikemen. Demosthenes notes that you hear of Philip marching unchecked, not because he led a phalanx of heavy infantry, but because he was accompanied by skirmishers, cavalry, archers, mercenaries, and similar troops. At Chaeronea, Philip deployed these light-armed infantry to drive off the Athenian infantry, and then threatened his right flank. Philip's light infantry comprised Agrianian javelineers, Scythian archers, Thracian peltasts, and various tribal units used as skirmishers. These units were often drawn from subject peoples, who were required to provide military service for the Macedonians, and always fought under the command of Macedonian officers. Oh, I am so mad I didn't realize we're on ads. I thought I could have sworn I stopped the ads. Oh, I have a feeling most people are probably still able to watch, except for Haru. No. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm dumb. I'm a big dummy. I'm a big dummy. But hopefully the ads are going to be on for a little while, I think. Okay, so I'm just going to chill. I'll use this time to rest my voice, I suppose. I'll leave it go for maybe... I was going to probably end this reading anyway soon enough. Because it's getting a little late and I do need to be up soon. I'll see. So yeah, I'll leave it go for another minute or so before I get back to it. Okay, okay. I think we're back. I do apologize to those of you who got ads there. I swear, guys, I will. Maybe I should just accept having what are they called again? The pre-rolls rather than dealing with ads. I don't know. I'll figure it out eventually. But let's get back. I'll just continue. Philip's great wealth also allowed him to hire contingents of mercenary troops on what Diodorus tells us was an unprecedented scale. After the Peloponnesian Wars, Greece was crawling with unemployed, experienced soldiers who sold their skills to various states, tyrants, and kings throughout the Mediterranean. Soldiers for hire were so common that mercenaries became an occupational group that Greek society recognized as legitimate. The Greeks had no word for mercenary that would convey its modern meaning as a soldier of fortune. Instead, these professional warriors were referred to as epikuros, or fighter alongside, Mistophoros, wage earner, or Xenos Mistophoros, foreign wage earner. Mercenaries usually fought in small formations under professional commanders, and commonly were light troops of peltasts, javelineers, slingers, and archers, although certainly some of them were hoplite infantry. They could be hired for service year-round, and as such, made excellent garrison troops. Philip used them often in this capacity, which is yeah, that does seem like a decent idea to have your kind of core unit, core army, be kind of your group, and then you use these mercenaries as ancillary support, not as the basis. Polyneus tells us that Philip used mercenary troops to attack besieged cities with scaling ladders, and once they breached the walls, mercenary infantry were often employed in the deadly hand-to-hand street fighting that followed. Curtius records a similar instance in 352 BC, when Philip held back his own Macedonian troops and sent his mercenaries inside to subdue the city of Pharkadon. Mercenaries were, after all, expendable, and by using them in street fighting, he reduced the losses to his own Macedonian soldiers. Philip often sent mercenaries to the aid of the pro-Macedonian cities that requested his assistance, and he used them to protect his line of communications on long campaigns. Philip, of course, did not trust mercenaries, and never used them in circumstances where their desertion could cause him difficulty. Still, mercenaries had their uses, and when Alexander left for Asia, he took 5,000 mercenaries with him. There was a note earlier at the back of the book. Let's see if it had anything interesting to say. 31. A hoplite infantry battle developed in several phases. The hoplites would assemble and advance towards each other's formation in a solid line, the phinosis. When the lines faced each other, individuals would sally forth and fight individual contests in true Homeric fashion. This phase was called en pomachios, or out in front. Then the two lines of infantry would be given the order to overlap their shields, simnapsisos, and charge. When the two lines collided, a good deal of shoving, or othemos, would take place, causing the lines to rotate counterclockwise. Fighting in this fashion suggests the ritualistic, almost ceremonial origins of Greek combat typical of the Homeric age. Even in the final clash of the infantry lines, the crowding made large-scale killing difficult. Philip obtained the idea for a permanent elite infantry force after encountering the Sacred Band while a hostage in Thebes. The idea of a standing force ran contrary to the traditional Greek practice of raising troops every campaign season and sending them, like good citizens, back to their homes when no longer needed. Alexander II had formed a small unit of hoplites, probably mercenaries, to serve as his personal guard, and named them Hypaspetae, or shield-bearers. Philip created a professional elite force of Macedonian citizen soldiers to serve as his personal guard, retaining the name Hypaspetae for them. These are the silver shields, I assume. W. Tarn describes them as, quote, a standing foot guard, probably small, whose duty was to guard his person, not only in battle but at all times. Philip must have formed this unit almost immediately upon taking power, for the men were in the field with him a year later in the war against the Illyrians, when Theopompus described them as picked men out of all the Macedonians, the tallest and strongest. It was the first standing military force in Macedonian history. Initially, the size of Philip's battle guard was small, but it grew after Philip incorporated the upper cantons of Macedonia, increasing the pool of military manpower from which he could draw. By the end of Philip's reign, the Hypaspetae, the Hypaspetae. Greek is such an awkward language at times. Numbered some 3,000 soldiers divided into 3,000-man brigades. Wait, what? Oh, sorry. Numbered some 3,000 troops divided into 3,000-man brigades. So, 1,000-men brigades. The first of these brigades was called the Royal Hypaspes Guard, or the Agema, and were under the king's personal command. The guard accompanied him at all times and seemed to have been a standing, full-time professional force on year-round duty. The guard was also an elite fighting force, and it led the attack on the Athenians at Chaeronea. The question of its armament remains unclear, however. Probably early on the men were armed as the hoplites were, but by the time of the Illyrian War, they were also certainly also armed with the sarissa. Historian George Cawkwell suggests that over time they became less heavily armed, like the peltasts, so that they could act as the hinge between the phalanx and the cavalry, a mission that required rapid movement to stay in contact with both major combat elements. We know that after Gaugamela, Alexander reconfigured some of these units with different weapons for special special missions. As an elite unit, it is not unlikely that, as G. T. Griffith has suggested, the shield bearers were trained in the whole range of Macedonian weaponry, just as modern elite units, such as the US Special Forces and the British Special Boat Service, or the SBS, are similarly cross-trained. With the invention of the pike phalanx, Philip brought about a tactical revolution in Greek warfare. Until his day, hoplite infantry had been the principal or primary combat arm and decided most battles. But for all its combat power and innovation, the Macedonian phalanx was not the combat arm of decision. Instead, the phalanx was designed to work in conjunction with cavalry, a combat arm that, until now, in Greece proper anyway, had been largely underdeveloped. The revolutionary aspect of the Macedonian phalanx was its ability to penetrate or paralyze hoplite infantry in ways that made it vulnerable to cavalry attack. Philip's revolution in infantry combat made possible the transformation of the Macedonian cavalry into the combat arm of decision. That ends kind of that part of this chapter, and we then pick up into talk about the cavalry. Let me take another sip of water. These pages are so long. It feels it's only been like 12 pages, and I've been reading for quite a while. Let me see. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there because my throat is still a little bit not the best. Still a little bit at me, and I know this was a relatively short stream. Or actually, will I do a little bit more? Will I just finish off this part? Let me think for a moment, please. Hmm. You know what? Yeah, I think I will leave it here. But then next time I'm going to get at least a good couple more pages done. Uh, and I think with this book, because it's quite a long book and there's a lot to go, I might there's about what? There's about 250 pages. Although there's quite a few that are maps and things. Yeah, I'll work out a way to maybe try and speed up the reading, maybe, or something of that fashion. Because it's gonna take a long time to get through that. I don't want to be stuck on the same book for, months. Then I'm going into like stream number 100 on a single reading. But no matter. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and make myself some tea and enjoy from there. But I do really enjoy reading a bit more about kind of developments and the way he organized his army. I think, let me just look at the chapters there real quick. Or not the chapters, kind of the sub-chapters. 'Cause I'm just gonna see if there is any little chapters that might be kind of like, it's not that needed to speak about. No, I feel like this chapter is it's kind of important. But I will say, after this chapter as well, it becomes a lot more historical. This is very much it's bouncing around a lot. It's giving explanations behind certain decisions and developments that occur kind of throughout his life. From chapter 4 onwards, it becomes much more focused on Philip's rise and kind of early years. Apologies. But yeah, I'm going to end the stream. Let me see if there's anyone to raid into who is currently on. I think. Ooh, I think I have an idea. We're gonna raid into my friend Cat's Returns. What's she doing? She's playing Planet Zoo. Yeah. Okay, cool. We're gonna raid into Cats. Cats is a very cool streamer. I think next time I'm going to probably play a bit more Volcano Princess. I want to finish at least one kind of playthrough of that. I think that would be a good way to do it. Okay. Right. Ugh. Thank you all very much for joining me tonight. It was lovely to be back. Hopefully my throat can improve to the point that it doesn't get tired after only not even an hour reading, because I spoke for a good while, just chatting away. Hopefully it can be a little bit better. But thank you all for joining me. Go raibh míle maith agat and slán go fóill.